It's already proving to be a particularly crazy day, what with the leak from SCOTUS and the fear of some kind of escalating conflict in the US. The left is losing their mind, but nothing is outright set in stone. Now, I was planning on talking more about the conflict and civil war, but there's so much breaking. I'd be worried that if I made something too soon, I would miss out on a lot of the statements. So notably, Chief Justice John Roberts issued a statement. So I'm going to push this back to my later segment, which for those listening on the podcast will be the first segment. And that'll be 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. But I did see this other story that I thought was a really good example of the hypocrisy and the ruthlessness? That's a good word. The ruthlessness of the establishment class and why we mustn't take them seriously. Why, my friends, this story is about Taylor Lorenz and Elon Musk. Because we have two stories. First, from the Daily Caller. Taylor Lorenz walks back claims after falsely claiming a Drudge Report editor harassed her. She said it was a joke. She claimed someone from Drudge Report was harassing her. It wasn't true. She didn't fact check. She had no idea what she was talking about. And when she gets called out, she insults CNN, quite egotistical, I might add, and then says, it was all a joke. I didn't think anyone from Drudge was hurting me. It was a joke? Okay. You guys may have seen that when I made a joke and bought a billboard in Times Square, got a billboard in Times Square with the help of the Daily Wire, that, when she said it was all about a dark or harassment or whatever, it was a joke. She must have been joking. See, she wasn't serious. When there's a true story, she'll twist it and claim, oh, I'm being attacked. When it turns out she's wrong, I was just joking. But here's what I find absolutely fascinating. In another story, Newsweek says Elon Musk under fire for retaliatory doxing of journalist. You want to know what the real story is and how the media is spinning it? Elon Musk posted an emoji under an article from Glenn Greenwald, so they're arguing Elon Musk was doxing a journalist. All of a sudden now they're angry about addresses being posted. You have opened the door, Taylor Lorenz, when you posted the address of Libs of TikTok and then lied about it. Sure, let's talk about it though. You know, I posed this question on Twitter. Would it be wrong to get an ad truck? You ever seen an ad truck? It's like a pickup truck, but then they have on the back as a billboard and they drive around. Would it be wrong to put a journalist's name and address on one of those boards? I'm asking a question because I think doxing is wrong, but I'm wondering what people would think. And the reason I asked the question is because of what Taylor Lorenz did. What is the extent to which people think it's okay? And it was split. Most people said it would, I believe said it would be wrong. And then slightly less than half said it would not be wrong. But of those who said it would be wrong, they responded by saying, but they would support it because of what Taylor Lorenz did. Now, when I called out Taylor Lorenz for doxing, the response I got from the cult was that your side has been doing this forever. My side, libertarian types of varying different backgrounds. No, that's not a side or a group of people. And I don't defend doxing no matter where it comes from. I'm not a fan of doxing. However, when I'm not going to, I'll put it this way. I am not a fan of aggressing against people. I'm a fan of defending. And when you start a conflict and then people retaliate, it's a tough position to be in. I think doxing is wrong, but if Taylor Lorenz is doxing people, I'm going to shrug when it's like, live by the sword, you know what I mean? I'm not going to be involved in that. But at a certain point, the floodgates get opened. If you dox someone, they will dox you back. And that's where everything ends up. So we'll talk about how they're smearing Elon Musk. But the real issue here is, I want to put a segment showing you the hypocrisy. It's almost pointless, to be completely honest, because there's so much hypocrisy, but I don't understand how anyone could be defending Taylor Lorenz. I don't get it. I was interacting with someone on Twitter, and they were pulling the you guys thing, and I'm like, it really is a cult. Like, if you believe the Covington scandal, Russiagate, Jussie Smollett, the Trayvon Martin story, to clarify, Zimmerman, they edited the audio of him, what he was saying. They fabricated it. If you believe hands up, don't shoot. If you believe the Kyle Rittenhouse, all of those lies, if you believed all of those lies, you're on the left. That's it. So it's basically a cult. And if you're not in the cult, you're right wing. Well, that's what they call it. Taylor Lorenz is a perfect example. Take a look at this story from the Daily Caller. Washington Post columnist Taylor Lorenz walked back harassment accusations Monday against the Drudge Report, claiming her tweets were a joke. CNN reported late Monday that Lorenz claimed that an editor from the Judge Report relentlessly harassed her and threatened to use the site to destroy her life. The news aggregation website told Darcy, so the CNN, that they told Darcy they and nor any associate had never contacted her. Okay, copy editor guys, what? They told Oliver Darcy that they did not, and no one else associated with them had ever contacted her. Drudge emailed Lorenz requesting for a correction of her allegations made on Twitter, leading her to delete the tweets, and clarified that the alleged editor had no connection with Drudge. Quote, "For anyone who saw my post about this man claiming to be from Judge calling me nonstop, good news, I heard from Matt Drudge, and this man has zero power over Drudge. He's claiming to be an editor all over the internet, but he's not. Sorry to disappoint everyone saying Drudge is based." What? Lorenz told CNN that her initial tweets were a joke and believed the thought of someone harming her via Drudge is hilarious. So I have some sources, some people who have deep connections to New York media, considering I used to work there. As many of you know, I used to work in some of these New York newsrooms. So I know a lot of people who also know Taylor. My understanding is that behind the scenes, she actually is freaking out. That's all I know. That's what I've been told. I've requested some kind of proof, but she's apparently, according to some people with the know, behind the scenes, she is flustered, extremely angry, freaking out, and then putting on this haha facade on Twitter, try and maintain some composure, I guess. I don't know if that's true or not, because I requested, you got to prove it to me. I'm not just going to claim something. I'll also fight against sneeze. Lorenz doubled down on her initial comments early Tuesday by calling them objectively hilarious, then accused CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy of being thirsty for a media story. Check this out. Oliver Darcy says, Drudge himself contacted Taylor Lorenz to ask for a correction after she said in tweets that a Drudge editor had harassed her. Drudge told me no one associated with the Judge Report had contacted her prior. Taylor Lorenz says her tweets were mostly a joke. Were they? She said, LOL, I didn't even know Drudge Report was even still around. I still think someone claiming to ruin my career on the Drudge Report is objectively hilarious. I know you're thirsty for media news. Maybe you can report on someone claiming to destroy me on GeoCities next. Taylor, did you make tweets without doing any fact-checking and issue statements without doing any fact-checking? That sounds like your MO, I guess. They're going to mention that Taylor Lorenz has been under fire for the recent doxing of libs of TikTok this weekend. The columnist doubled down on the doxing during an April 24th appearance on CNN's reliable sources, saying she revealed no personal information about the owner at all. We absolutely did not reveal any personal information about this woman at all, remotely. I know that sometimes reporting practices can seem foreign to people that aren't familiar with journalism, but this was very by the book and very benign. The thing is, the right-wing media will lie, right? They kind of just spin up these narratives. The goal is to sow doubt and discredit journalism, and that is their agenda. No, I don't know. I have a news outlet, and I'm hiring journalists. So I don't know if that last one makes sense. I also know that if you go to the archive at archive.ph and look up Taylor's original article, includes a link to a real estate license, which has the private address of the creator of Libs of TikTok. That's personal information. What's your argument? Are you trying to argue semantics, Taylor? Well, it's not personal. It's professional information. Not to rehash that story again. But this is the point. Don't trust these people. Show this to your friends. People are like, what can I do to tell my friends and family? I don't know. Show them this stuff. And if they don't want to learn, then let them be zombies. Let them be in the cult. You don't get to take their phone away from them. Because I don't know how many times a story has to be debunked. Once again, Taylor Lorenz published garbage lies. She didn't fact check. She posts garbage lies. That's what she does. Here we go. Elon Musk under fire for retaliatory doxing of journalist. Elon Musk doxed no one. What's this headline, Newsweek? Isla Slisco. Fake news. Take a look at this. Elon Musk is under fire for allegedly supporting the doxing of a journalist on Twitter who criticized him. Oh, supporting? Doxing refers to the release of personal information about a person, such as a home address that could be used for targeted harassment. Musk was accused of supporting the practice Monday after weighing in on a Glenn Greenwald Twitter thread criticizing the Atlantic writer Molly Jong-Fast for calling the billionaire's complaints about woke censorship an example of old rich white men being upset with young people during an MSNBC interview. After Greenwald shared an article about Jong-Fast purchasing a $5 million condo in New York City's wealthy Upper East Side neighborhood, Musk shared a SpongeBob SquarePants Mrs. Krabs meme. While the neighborhood has over 200,000 residents, and the article shared by Greenwald did not include an address as of Monday, although some Twitters have suggested the address was removed after Greenwald shared the article, the soon-to-be Twitter owner was slammed for the alleged doxing of Molly Jong-Fast. Here we go. David Rothschild says, Elon Musk joined Glenn Greenwald to attack Molly Jong-Fast with super witty 1984 jokes and her home address in response to her statements regarding which rich white men bullies who feel threatened by progress. This version of free speech, bullying, hatred, doxing, stifles speech. Thank you, David. Thank you so much. So I can now help explain this to people. Do you think that what Taylor Lorenz did is not doxing because she only published public information? Okay. Well, then you can't be mad about this either because, first of all, Elon Musk didn't publish anything, and Glenn Greenwald linked to a story from, I think it was 2007, with public information. Okay. I think it's wrong for the journalist who wrote that story to include the address, be it the person over at The Observer who published the address, presumably, and for Taylor Lorenz to do the same thing. But if you're going to come out, as many on the left have said, it's not doxing because the information was public, then you can't claim Glenn Greenwald doxed Molly Jong-Fast. You've caught yourself in your own trap. But of course, it's a cult, and cults don't care about facts. Now, whenever I bring up the cult, I always want to give a special shout out to our good friend Jordan Klepper, who on the Comedy Central goes and talks to MAGA Meemaw types who believe wacky fringe conspiracy nonsense. Hey, those people are also out of their gourds. Call it a cult if you want. I just don't know if it's big enough and it's a bunch of weird ideas that don't mesh with each other, but okay, sure. Call them culty, call them cultists, call them whatever you want. There is a Trump cult, and these people believe Donald Trump will be reinstated on this day and this day, and I'm just like, dude, that's not going to happen. That's nuts. Like, the probability of Trump being reinstated is nuts, and Trump himself wasn't even saying this stuff. Call it a cult. Those people, heaven forbid the Trump cult actually became journalists at major publications like the New York Times. Yeah, then I'd complain about it. But the gray lady, as it were, employs a bunch of crackpots who are in a cult. The Washington Post and the New York Times and the Atlantic, these are mainstream institutions where the mainstream left gets their opinions, and it is a cult. It's a cult because they do something and then later don't realize they're doing what they're complaining about. It's insane. I'm sure smarter people up at the higher, echelon of this cult know exactly what they're doing. Rothschild added that Musk could encourage and promote attacks, bully, hate, doxing of progressives on Twitter as its new owner, but warned that very quickly far-right anti-woke going to find themselves alone in their wasteland. I don't think they care. The right has been trying to create the space forever. If your goal is to harass every left-of-center person off a platform to create a place where only right-wing anti-woke thought is acceptable and safe, you are not a free speech warrior. Actually, if the left doesn't want to be around people because they don't like their opinions, they are the ones who are not for free speech. If I go out into the city, if I drive to DC, why, there could be someone screaming political nonsense. I have to accept that. If you go on Twitter, same thing. But you see, these crybabies, these cry bullies went, I'll leave the platform unless you ban these people. And Twitter was like, okay. And then they did. Here we go. Aaron Rupar. We love Aaron Rupar. To Rupar, it's a verb, is to take things out of context to push fake news. Like, it's actually a slang term because of what Aaron Rupar does. Incoming owner of Twitter has a chuckle about a tweet Glenn Greenwald, he puts an asterisk there, posted to harass Molly Jong-Fast by listing her address for his deranged followers to see. Gross stuff. Okay. All right. I invited on tons of lefties to come on Timcast IRL. We're a sit-down show, not unlike Joe Rogan. He does a sit-down show as well. They never take it. They never do. We are booking Matt Bender. So for a while, he hadn't gotten back to us. He got back to us. So I will apologize for my impatient statements when I called him out saying, where's the email? I thought you were going to get back in touch with us. He did. And it was not particularly unreasonable, the amount of time he took. So I apologize for that. And I'm glad to see that he's willing to come out and we cover all the costs. But there are so many people on the left. I recently invited another person associated with the left, and they just won't do it. They smack talk all day and night about how the right is dumb, about how they can easily disprove their opinions. But these people all know if they sat down with me, they wouldn't win a debate for two reasons. One, they don't know half about what they're talking about. And two, they don't know anything about me. For example, they'll come out and be like, most people support abortion, or most people are pro-choice. My response is not to be, that's not true. Most people are pro-life. My response is, interestingly, there's different polls showing different numbers. One suggests the overwhelming majority of people want restrictions on abortion, but legal in some way. But only around 28% want it to be unrestricted, which is you, the minority. I'm not here to argue for banning abortion. I'm here to point out what the data is. But see, these people, they won't come on the show because they know exactly what will happen. I'm not going to debate them. I'm going to have a conversation. And their ideas are wrong. They will try and make all of these narrative lies statements, and I'll easily just debunk them. That's why they won't come on the show. That's it. I got heavily criticized over Kyle Rittenhouse when I said that what was going on with Kyle Rittenhouse convinced me to vote for Trump. The issue was they were trying to destroy this kid, and he was acting in self-defense. Even Destiny, the left-wing commentator on Twitch, agreed it was the clearest cut case of self-defense he'd ever seen. That's what he said. He got in trouble for saying that. The left overwhelmingly believed these insane lies. I called it out, so they call me right-wing. And it's funny then when, I look at my Wikipedia and it's just like, he said this about Kyle Rittenhouse, later turned out to be correct, and a jury agreed with Poole. It's like, dude, my opinion on what should happen about the law is predicated upon the facts of the case. Same is true with Ahmaud Arbery. Aaron Rupar, here's why I bring this up. I bring it up because these people on the left are like, Taylor Lorenz didn't dox anybody. The information was already public. Glenn Greenwald doxed Molly Jong Fast by posting a news article with her address. Look, let's even say this. There's a big difference between finding someone's name and real estate license and posting it, and tweeting an article in a news publication that's already published from 15 years ago with an address in it. 15 years ago? Does she still live there? Maybe. Now, I personally don't agree with posting the address, even linking to it. There's a difference. But the point I'm making here, the left was outraged at what Glenn Greenwald did, but not at what Taylor Lorenz did, because they're a cult. They're a cult. You must protect the cult at all costs. What they do, they're infallible. It's similar with abortion. They say, my body, my choice. And it's like, what about vaccines? And they're like, no. But it's not a contradiction. A lot of people are pointing out it's hypocritical of the left to say my body, my choice when it comes to abortion, but not vaccines. And I'm like, it's not. What they're saying is my body, my choice, your body, my choice. They're consistent. Their worldview is predicated upon they are the authority and you must do as they tell you, which is they can do whatever they want with their bodies and you better do what they tell you with your bodies. It's consistent. They're authoritarians. I look forward to consistently inviting more and more people on the left on the show. And I think I'm going to have to maintain a policy of if the left... So here's what usually happens. When I invite a lefty on the show, I don't publish their answers. I don't, leak the communications or anything like that because I'm acting in good faith. And if I started just publishing their ridiculous responses, then why would anyone take it seriously? So there was one individual whose message I did leak because he was lying publicly about what had happened, and I won't stand for the lying. There's one individual now who made demands that aren't, I don't want to say criminally legal, but there's legal restrictions on what I can do. Basically, someone said, I'll come on, this lefty guy, I'll come on your show if you do all of these things for me. And I'm like, we will accommodate you, but those two things aren't legal. And I don't mean criminally, I mean regulation-wise, regulatorially, if there's a word for that. In terms of business regulation, there are things we can't do. And it's like, we can't do that. And so I guess the idea is the left knows they can't go on a show. They're scared. They make up these excuses like, well, give us special provisions and change the format of your show and we'll come on. It's like, we don't do that. We don't do it for anybody. I didn't change the format of the show for Andy No or for Lauren Southern. We told them you have to come out to come on the show. And that's the point. We had R.A. the Rugged Man on. He smacked the microphone. We got heated. He came on and sat down. But these left-wing personalities, they know they will get eviscerated on the facts. Now, I got no issue with someone like Hassan saying, bro, I do my own show and I'm too busy. Agreed. 100%. I get asked to go on shows all the time. And for that reason, I'm like, it is just really difficult for me to do. So when it comes to any left person, I was like, I can't travel for that. I do my own show. I'm like, you're right. I'm not going to drag someone over that. I do think that when, Hassan agreed to come on the show in the first place, publicly, but then privately refused, that's BS. Recently, he said, look, I host my own show 7 days a week. I can't just travel for this. And I was like, fair point. I got no issue with that. You're right. I don't expect you to come on the show if you have to do something like that. There are a lot of people on the left who don't have that schedule, don't host their own show, but will refuse to come out. And I think it's because their opinions are backed by nonsense, that they're emotionally driven and they can't win actual arguments. I'm not seeking to have anybody on the show to have an argument. I'm seeking just to ask them their ideas. Vosh, for instance, and Destiny are two people who I think actually have ideas. Well, you might not like them. For Vosh, a lot of people are highly critical of his stance on children, but they've thought out their positions and they argue them. I think Destiny was actually our best guest from the left. That dude was smart. He is smart, knows what he's talking about and has arguments to make. And he knows the facts. So when you're actually in a conversation with him and you're like, here's how I feel about X, he'll respond with, I understand those data points. And now what about this position? And I'm like, well, seems like we have different opinions. That's really what it came down to. I'm like, I think it's wrong to exploit crises to change public policy because it manipulates people. And Destiny's response was, when else would you do it? And I'm like, through a normal democratic process. And he's like, I think it's a perfect opportunity to change things. And I'm like, all right, well, we have difference of opinion then on what is right and what is wrong. That's all it is. With this stuff, it is ever so obvious that there is no standard for the establishment left. This includes many leftists, but there are people like Lee Camp or Jimmy Dore who are on the left, I think are good. Destiny, I disagree with, but I think he actually makes arguments. And I think it's fascinating too, even for someone like Destiny, these people, I think one of the reasons they won't come on the show is that they know they'll lose the argument because I actually agree with them on many things, and they won't have a leg to stand on for the irrational things they state or the false things they state. We had Hunter Avallone on the show. He was a former anti-woke conservative guy turned liberal, and he actually tried challenging me on the Hunter Biden, Ukraine, Joe Biden story. And I'm like, are you joking? Do you really think you're going to come in here when all I do all day for 10 years is read the news, and technically longer than that? I've been reading the news and involved in activism my entire life. So as a little kid, I was on the internet. I remember when I was like 15 being like, dude, the Supreme Court, blah, 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 and reading all these stories. But you're going to come on my show, having done no research, asserting something that is patently false. You come on my show and say X is true. And I'll say, I don't believe that's correct. Pull it up. I pull it up. It's wrong. I go, oh, guess I was wrong. See, even to my own detriment. I was on the Joe Rogan show in November, and I'm a bit upset with myself. I said that most of the country was now constitutional carry. Joe disagreed with me, and I said, I'm pretty sure it is. Pull it up. Jamie pulled up a bad source from years ago that said 13 states, and I said, I'll eat that one. I stand corrected. But I wasn't corrected. We have 25 states that are constitutional carry, and we're on the verge of a 26th. I was actually right. But see, I deferred to the search saying, okay, because I'm willing to have the evidence change my views, and I'm willing to be wrong, even when it's to my own detriment. These people are duplicitous. They have no morals. Their morals are only power, power, power. Stop taking them seriously. But let's talk about where it's going next. The next segment will be up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.